Pokemon Legends ZA Ranked Season 2 dropped about 2 days ago, and with it we actually got a bunch of new stuff introduced to the ranked mode. Better rewards for getting first and second place mainly, and the addition of Xerneas, Yveltal, Mega Diancie being added, as well as Mega Delphox being added to the game. So we also have a bunch of other like meta developments, technically I guess if you want to call them like meta developments, with the game and like the best Pokemon being played right now. So this is going to be kind of a video kind of telling you guys what to play for ranked if you are trying to grind wins or trying to grind victories and rank up from Z to rank A and trying to get the max amount of rewards at the end of the season. Or if you're just trying to get as many wins as possible and farm bottle caps or Apri balls or rare candies or whatever it may be, this will also help you and kind of hopefully give you guys some insight on what is the stuff being played and the stuff that's going to be most common that you're going to be seeing in a lot of your games for this season going forward, at the very least for the rest of the season too. So I'll throw the list on screen for you guys right now. Leave a like, subscribe, share the video. What I did with this list to save a bunch of time as I went through, I took like literally like an hour to do this. I took like an hour of my own time off screen, and I went through and I ranked this entire list off screen for you guys. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to go through each tier of this list and kind of just briefly talk about everything in each tier. And mainly towards the higher tiers, I'll talk a little bit more about those Pokemon, the ones that are the most common, but that's kind of what I'm going to do with this list. Otherwise, we'd be sitting here for like 3 or 4 hours ranking a bunch of shit onto this list. I'm going to try to make this less than like a 20-minute video. That's my goal for you guys. So on screen right now, what I'm going to throw on is we're going to start out in the F tier. I'm going to go, this is a list from F tier all the way to S tier. I'm not going to show you guys the higher tiers yet because, like I said, I already pre-ranked this list. So I don't want to spoil it until I get through the entire video. So keep in mind it's also 100% opinionated, so if you guys don't agree with me on anything, or if you guys want more insight on why something is in a certain tier, or if just because if your favorite Pokemon is in a bad tier or somewhere you don't think it belongs, does not mean they are bad. They're just going based off of what I've seen. I've played like over close to like 150 ranked games so far since Season 2 has launched, and I'm on my way to like, I'm almost really close to A tier already, so just going based off of what I've seen, what I've played, what I've built around personally, and all that type of stuff, and kind of putting into a list for you guys to hopefully help you rank up or grind wins on the ranked ladder for this season. Got the F tier. This is the stuff that you're just not going to be using, or like the pre-evolved stuff or garbage that was just on this list. There's also stuff that's not currently in the game, like the Mewtwo form, Zygarde's not legal yet, and a few other things, Volcanion, Hoopa, etc., etc. All this stuff is just stuff you're never going to be using, or like pre-evos and all that type of stuff. Just trash. Let's skip right on up to the E tier. Pretty much what this tier is like, this is all the Pokemon that it's just not bad enough to really be put in like the worst of the worst, like unplayed tier. But realistically, a lot of this stuff in E tier is stuff you're not really going to be using unless you are having a mega evolution of the Pokemon on your team. You're not going to want to have run like a regular Meowstic or a lot of these mons without their mega form and all that type of stuff. But it's kind of why I just have them on here. And this tier is mainly the stuff that not really bad enough to be put in the tier below that's like unplay worthy, but usually you're not going to be seeing a lot of this stuff at all. But if you're really ballsy enough to use it, you can. If you want to run like a non-mega Scolipede for whatever reason, you can. It'll take a lot longer to rank up, or you might not win as much, but I'm not saying you can't use it. Got the D tier. This is where the stuff I'm going to start talking about some of the stuff, because this is stuff you can use. A lot of the Mega Evolutions, the more least used, or kind of more bad per se Mega Evolutions, and a lot of the other stuff that isn't really like top tier in the game currently at all, especially for the ranked format and the ranked mode. But some of this stuff you can slot onto some teams, or has like specific niches, or just isn't as bad as some of the stuff below it in this list. Which some of the stuff I will talk through. Like, I'll go through some of the stuff. Like, a lot of these megas, a lot of them, you're just not really justified running a lot of these, because they either don't really do much for you, or it just doesn't pay running a mega slot on a lot of these megas. And a lot of these ones as well that you guys see here either get wrecked by something that's really common, like higher in this tier list, that you're going to be seeing in like the majority of your matches, and you're just going to be getting wrecked by it nonstop. or there's just not really much reason to use a lot of these megas because they're really reliant on their abilities, which are currently not in the game and are being held back by that. For example, like stuff like Electros, which we think maybe might have Levitate but has no ability, which makes it a million times worse. There's a few other things like Mega Manectrix really held back because it doesn't have Intimidate. Mega Lopunny is another one. Just gets absolutely walled by certain things because it doesn't have Scrappy, etc., and that type of thing with a lot of these megas. And there's just a lot of other like mega Pokemon that you're gonna want to be running over these. I'm not saying they're really bad. If you really want to build a team around like Mega Hulucha or like Scrafty or whatever, like you can build around these megas, but you gotta build a team to like cover every one of their weaknesses and kind of build around them really well. And even then, you're still gonna be struggling a lot. You have to play the team really, really good. So, not saying they're unplayable, but there's just not really much reason to use them currently at all. Got a few of these other Pokemon like Pangoros here, just mainly because it has a really good typing offensively. Light Ball Pikachu is actually okay. Raichu is a decent electric type in a game that doesn't really have that many good electric types apart from either Megas or one or two other things. Doublade and Aegislash I threw into the same tier because they're kind of the same. One relies on Eviolite and then the other ones actually could be good, but it takes forever to switch between stances and actually land an attack because every time Aegislash wants to attack, it has to do like a stance switch animation from defense to offensive form, and it takes like a million years to try to attack somebody. And by the time you attack them, they usually just end up dying. That's the main problem with Aegislash, which overall Aegislash probably wouldn't even be in D tier, but that's the only main thing that's holding it back. Got a Malga in this tier. I would actually put a Malga lower, but it has a really unique typing, which is the electric flying typing, which is actually solid into a lot of the more like common water types, and you can dodge all the ground type moves. That's the only reason I really have it in this tier. Its stats really aren't the greatest, but it has a really unique niche in that alone, so I gotta kind of put in D tier. Tyrantrum, Krookodile, like a lot of these other mons, like they're good. They're not as bad as some of this other stuff in the lower tiers. If you really want to run some of this stuff, like I love Tyrantrum, it's one of my favorite mons. Like you can run in it, they're all solid if you can build around them, or if you just want like something to kind of fill out like a certain niche on your team. Romatisse gets double screens. It's a fairy type in a game that doesn't have that many good fairies, but and it's one of the only ones that gets like double screens, apart from like Carbink and one or two other ones. Apart from that, not really much reason to use it. Few of the evolutions here. The Stunfisk forms are really unique because they're ground types with other like dual typings that are actually decent. Ground Electric is actually a really solid typing. Same with like Ground Steel, which is kind of unique as well. It's just kind of a shitty version of Excadrill, which is kind of the problem. That's why I have them in D tier. And their stats really aren't the greatest. Leafeon's here. We talked about Carbink, a few of the Chestnuts here. I don't see anybody playing Chestnut at all, but I don't think it's as bad as some of these other mons. Then Diancie, which is also now in the game through Mystery Gift. I mean, it's a fairy rock type that it's 4 times weak to steel, kind of like Carbink. But if you want a fairy type and you want to use Diancie, you can use it, I guess. And that's kind of why I just threw it into D tier. It's not as bad as some of these other mons. Then we got the C tier. This is going to be the stuff that's actually like you can use, and if you build around a lot of this stuff, you can see it played, and you're going to see some of these Pokemon being used in some of your matches. They're not the most common things ever, but you can use a lot of these Pokemon and still do pretty good, and you're going to see some of this stuff once in a while in some of your games. The biggest glow up I think for this season is Mega Beedrill, because for season 1, this thing was fucking terrible. But being now that you guys probably already seen it as I scrolled up, but being now that Xerneas is in the game, it's one of the most common Pokemon in the entire format for this season so far. Beedrill is actually pretty solid into Xerneas. So, same with like Mega Scolipede. It's kind of either or which one you really want to use. Personal preference. One's a little bit more frail, but does a little bit more damage. And then the other one's a little bit more bulky, but does a little bit less damage. Kind of a personal preference which one you want to use. But I think both of those have had like a little bit of a resurgence just because Xerneas is on like every team. So you do have a niche that you're good into Xerneas. So the rest of these megas, like they're okay. Like they're okay megas, not really bad at all. Like there's better options for mega Pokemon, but if you really want to use some of these megas, you could justify using them because they're either solid types or they have some stuff that they're actually good into that's more common being played currently that you can kind of check or kind of play into. So it's kind of pretty much a lot of the stuff in this tier. I'm not going to really talk about anything else on here because a lot of it's kind of the same, kind of in the same boat. But B tier is the stuff that you're going to be seeing a lot more common. This is the stuff that is a lot more common in ranked, and you're going to be seeing this in a lot more of your games. And some of the more like niche picks or stuff that's a lot better just from the top picks that are being played right now, kind of that as well. Mega Ampharos still really solid. You're seeing a little bit less of it, but I still think it's really good. Just mainly because Gyarados is still incredibly common and like it still does really good damage in some of these dragon types. Mega Dragonite, Mega Salamence. Like I can't put them any lower on this list because they're pseudo legendaries with crazy stats, but I can't really put them any lower than B tier. I don't think they're better than a B tier. They're still really really good, but just based off their stats alone, like I think they're B tier worthy. Charizard X is the best one over Charizard Y. I think if you want a solid dragon that's a mega that isn't Garchomp, I think Charizard X is one of the other ones you're going to kind of want to be looking at. People are sleeping on Mega Floette. I think Mega Floette as like a fairy type mega is actually really good. It does solid damage. It's relatively bulky. I think it's actually really slept on currently. Got Mega Meganium, which is still really solid. One of the very few fairy types in the game. It also has a really cool typing. One of the better grass types. If you're looking for a really solid grass type and a fairy type, you usually want to look at Mega Meganium. Pretty solid mon. Mega Lucario is another one that's kind of seen a lot more play just because Xerneas is on like every team. You got to be really careful because there's still a lot of ground types being played, but the majority of the time you pretty much just one-shot most Xerneas builds. So it's still really good, especially if you can set up like with setup type stuff and stuff you're running. And like you're also neutral to fairy type moves. Granted, if they're set up with Geomancy, you still get one-shotted, but it depends on their builds a lot of the time. If they aren't set up, there is sometimes you can maybe live a regular Moonblast or a few other things. Mega Diancie I have in B tier because I have been seeing a lot of it. I don't know how good it is. I think the only reason I'm going to put it in B tier is because of people are playing it a lot right now, and that's just because it just got put into the game through a mystery gift with this season launching in about 2 days ago. So a lot of people are using it in ranks right now. I don't know how good it actually is because it's 4 times weak to steel and it's also weak to ground, but I do see it being played a lot. It's doing okay, at least from what I've seen. I don't think it's crazy though. You could probably see Mega Diancie like dropping on this list going forward. I just see it being played a lot because it was just put into the game, which I think is the main thing. Some of these other megas like Tyranitar is still really solid. It can eat a Moonblast to the face and like one shot you back, which is the main thing. It's bulky enough to eat hits. Chandelure is also really good for a lot of these steel types being played. Greninja's fallen a little bit. The main reason why I think Mega Greninja's definitely fallen a little bit is just mainly because everybody's running fairy types, and like you can't really touch a lot of the fairies. You don't do enough damage to one-shot any of them. You don't do enough damage to one-shot Gardevoir most of the time unless you have like a nasty plot up or like they have prior damage. And even then, usually you miss out on some of the KOs. And like you for sure are not one-shotting Xerneas, which we'll talk about a lot of these higher tier mons on this list. And I think that's kind of why the reasons why it's fallen a little bit. It was a lot better for season 1 of ranked, in my honest opinion. It has fallen off a little bit, but I think it's still really solid. It still has really good stats, and it's still a really good offensive typing. Mega Clefable, the reason why it's in B tier over regular Clefable is because there's not really much reason to really run Mega Clefable a lot of the time. You're better off just using your Mega on something else. Another one of my favorite Megas that I've actually built a team around, I've actually been doing really well with personally, is actually Mega Mawile. I think this thing is really, really good because you're good into all these dragon types being played, and you're also really good into Xerneas and all the fairies. You are a steel fairy type that hits like 90% of the stuff that's being played, and that's some of the most common stuff in your games, which is really, really good. And plus, you have pretty solid stats for a Mega as well, at least offensively. You don't have an Intimidate, which is kind of holding it back still, but the Mega form for Mega Mawile is pretty good. I've been doing pretty good with it. I've been climbing with it on the ladder, so I think it definitely is worthy of at least a B tier. Some of these other mons like Gyarados is still really common. Gardevoir, even like without a Mega, is still solid. It's one of the better fairy types in the game. Glaceon, better ice type, one of the better ice types. It also gets freeze dry, which puts it above a lot of the other ice types in the game because a lot of the ice types don't get freeze dry, which automatically makes it better into a lot of the other water Pokemon that you might run into. Like a few of these other mons, like they're kind of self-explanatory why they're B tier. There's really solid mons. Then we got the A tier. This is the stuff that you're gonna be seeing in like the majority of your games. Really common, really good stuff. Yveltal got put into the game. I'm gonna be completely real with you guys. I haven't seen nearly the amount of Yveltal being played over Xerneas. I think if you do want to use Yveltal, you have to build in like an entire team supporting it, which usually looks like it's probably Mega Metagross or Mega Skarmory as like a partner at the very least. I don't know what you'd run for a third, maybe like a fire type or something. I don't know, but at least what I've been seeing people pair with it's usually a steel type like Mega Metagross or like Skarmory or like even like Excadrill. Just so you have something to deal with Xerneas and some of these fairy types because otherwise they get completely wrecked. Same with some of the electric types you might run into. Clefable, really solid fairy type. Not really gonna talk about it very much. Dragonite, Garchomp, these are two no-brainers. Just incredibly good mons, even without their mega forms. At least what I would like to run on them as I love running even like AV. Dragonite's really solid, or like both running like Life Orb or Dragon Fang and a few other things. Metagross, the most common set I've been seeing for this thing is actually Assault Vest. Like a really bulky Metagross that doesn't take much damage at all. It's like a dedicated check, like a non-mega check to like a Xerneas and a few other fairy types, if that's what your team really needs. Mega Delphox actually just got put into the game with this season, and I think it's actually really, really good. Mega Delphox is actually really good, y'all. It hits like a fucking truck, and it actually has a pretty solid typing into a lot of stuff being played. Like, you gotta be careful for some of the ground types, like in these higher tiers that you're gonna be seeing in a lot of your games, but overall, at least like the fire psychic typing is not bad. At the very least, the majority of the stuff being played, you at the very least hit neutral with something that you want to do, whether it's a psychic type move or a fire type move in most cases. So, really solid mon. I'll actually be building a team around Mega Delphox as well here in like the next week or two. So, if you guys are interested in that, subscribe. That'll be the next team I build around. Our next mon. Mega Gyarados, you could argue Mega Gyarados, you could probably put in B tier, but I've still been seeing it in a lot of my games, and it still seems to be doing really well, even with Xerneas and a few other things rising in usage or being put into the game with this season. It's still really, really good. And then Mega Excadrill and Mega Gardevoir are probably the best Fairy Mega in the entire game, which is Mega Gardevoir currently, in a very limited pool of Fairy types, like usual it seems. And then you got the Excadrill, which just hits like a fucking truck. You set up a sword stance with this thing. It is absolutely fucking crazy how much damage Excadrill does. If you set up a sword stance with this thing, you literally like one-shot everything. Even stuff that's resisted, you usually one-shot a lot of the stuff. It is just crazy how much fucking damage this thing does. And then last but not least for this list, we got the S tier, which it's kind of really self-explanatory. I'm not really going to talk about a lot of these mons, but Xerneas is probably the most common Pokemon in the game right now. Everybody's running this thing. Everybody, like all these three Pokemon in like the S tier as well, whether it's their Mega forms or their non-Mega forms, they also really synergize well together, and then they all synergize. Like most of your teams, you're gonna be seeing at the very least one or two of the Pokemon like S tier or like A tier on teams, because they all usually just synergize together really, really well. And then usually like a filler mon from like B tier, or like below or that type of thing. But Xerneas is fucking crazy. Geomancy's fucking busted. This thing, I don't even know what I need to say about Xerneas. You guys know how fucking broken this thing is. There's some games where I'm like the only person too that doesn't have an Xerneas, and like everybody else has one. It'll be me versus like three Xerneas players, and I'm like, oh fuck, what do I do now? And they all just set up on each other and try to kill each other, and I'm usually the first one that dies. If you do not have something for Xerneas right now, you're just gonna have a really rough time. I think that's the main thing that everybody needs to take away with season 2 of ranked. You need something for Xerneas, whether it's a poison type or like even like a lot of the poison types, they just get wrecked by a lot of the ground types because they're usually the Xerneas covers for a lot of the weaknesses it has. Whether it's running like a steel type, which usually is Mega Metagross, or some of the other steel types, or like a dragon type or something on that can deal with like some of its weaknesses. Like you gotta really kind of have some type of answer to the Xerneas, otherwise just wrecks you. Just snowballs the game. You got Mega Metagross too, probably the most common Mega I've seen. The two most common Megas I've seen currently, I guess technically three. I'd probably say three is probably Mega Skarmory, and then the other two most common ones I've seen like the 90% of my games are either Metagross or Mega Garchomp. Both just do crazy damage, and like their typings are just incredibly good. Who knew that Mega Metagross was incredibly good, just like it was long, like up until now, forever already. And then that Mega Garchomp with a huge AoE Earthquake and a bunch of AoE moves would be great with the stats and the bulk it actually has. They both are really bulky, have really solid stats, and they have really good typings with a bunch of really good hard hitting spam type moves. Who would have knew that? Kind of an obvious no-brainer. Took a little bit for Mega Metagross to rise back up, though it was not nearly as common for Season 1, if, in my honest opinion. I only seen it a few times for Season 1, but the main reason why Metagross is so common is because it pairs really good with Xerneas, and it's also like one of the best things to check in Xerneas, so that's kind of why everybody's using it as well. So I think if they get rid of Xerneas or they ban that for next season, I don't know if they're gonna, I doubt it. If anything, they'll probably add Zygarde, which then will have just be replacing Garchomp with Zygarde on a lot of teams. Which it depends if they let you use two legendaries per team. I don't know if they'll do that either, but if they add Zygarde, shit's gonna hit the fan this for season 3. But I don't know. It just kind of depends what's allowed and everything next season. Because if they get rid of Xerneas or they ban the legendaries for season 3 and like it's only every other season, or they add like the legendaries back into the pool, then we'll probably see a little bit of a drop off in Metagross, maybe. I don't know. But that is your entire Season 2 Legends ZA tier list for competitive, ranked. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, because it's a 100% opinionated list. A lot of stuff on here that you could probably argue either a tier above or a tier below, but I think overall it's a pretty solid list. Like, for the majority of the stuff you're going to be seeing, like I said, I've played like over 100, maybe 150 games so far in the first few days. I've been grinding the shit out of ranked with a few of my teams that I built, so let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And subscribe, leave a like, share the video, it really helps out the channel. I also do a bunch more stuff over here as well, like Wi-Fi battle sessions on the ranked ladder with different teams almost every week. I've also did a few other things. I had an entire team with the Elemental Monkeys that I went on to ranked with this past week as well. If you guys missed that, check it out. I also stream over here usually Friday and Saturday nights. Saturday nights usually Pokemon Scarlet and Violet or Pokemon Legends EA type stuff, which I'll probably be streaming as well these next few weeks. So if that interests you guys, subscribe. Apart from that, I'm going to get out of here. Peace out, everybody.